Hi, I'm Abe. Tonight I'm going to be making roasted potatoes, which on a difficulty scale I think is far closer to box mac and cheese than it is to, say, a filet mignon. With that in mind, let's get into it. These are the ingredients that you need. Very simple. That's a strainer, a baking sheet, a cutting board with a knife, the potatoes itself, some olive oil, and some salt and pepper. The first thing you're going to want to do is open your bag of potatoes like this. The next thing you're going to want to do is put them in your strainer like this. I will note that I didn't specify a certain amount of potatoes, a certain measurement, so to speak, and that's because you kind of just go as how much you want to make. So I was just showing you guys a 3 pound bag of baby potatoes. I'm using about half of it. So let's say it's about a pound and a half, give or take a couple decimal points. The next thing you're going to want to do is put the potatoes onto your cutting board, and then you're going to want to take your knife and you want to quarter dice them, which means something like this. Now, don't come to me for kitchen safety advice. I am not a very safe person, especially when it comes to using one of these. So don't get mad at me, please. Of the very little I know about kitchen safety, one things I do know is you always want to keep your workspace clean. So after you cut a potato or two, you're going to want to take them and put them onto your baking sheet next to you. Preferably it's next to you, which it is, just off camera. Now, I am not very quick at cutting, so I assume in post this is going to be a sped up version of me cutting all of these and putting them on the baking sheet. Hey guys, this is Abe in post. My camera doesn't have the FPS required to speed it up because when I speed it up, it looks something like this. And I would never subject anybody to that awful piece of cinematography. So I will leave in a little piece of it, but you're gonna have to trust me that I cut them all in one sitting. Now, after you're done cutting them all up and putting them on your baking sheet, it should look something a little like this. Now, I did want to mention also that because you're handling food with your hands, and this is a very hand-intensive dish to make, you should probably wash your hands before you do this. I promise I did so off camera. I won't judge anybody's hygiene habits if you decide not to do such, though. Okay, the next order of business will be to use some of this salt and pepper and some of this extra virgin olive oil from Stop and Shop, no paid endorsement there, on your diced potatoes. Now, I will say I don't have any exact measurements for the amount of olive oil you'll use. You just kind of go by feel till they're pretty much covered but not drowned, I guess I'd say, and then you want to toss it all up with your hands, sprinkling salt and pepper to taste, pretty much. It is also around this time that you should probably preheat your oven. So I will say bake to 475 and then press start. Your potatoes should look something like this when you're done. I will also amend my previous statement and say I typically put salt and pepper on them first, then just a light dousing of olive oil. You don't actually want to really drown them or even close to drowning them. And then I put some salt and pepper on them after, just to make sure kind of everything's a little even. But this is very rough. No exact measurements of either of them. I will say this is the greatest invention of all time. It is a salt and pepper shaker in one, so you don't have to have two of them. Now, while I'm waiting for the oven to heat up, I will go a little bit in the background about why I'm making this dish, what my history with it is. Now, this is by no means an ethnic or religious dish. I mean, it's roasted potatoes. It's about as simple as you could get. I would say I've been making it for about 10 years. It was kind of the first thing I ever learned how to make that wasn't like boxed mac and cheese or something in the microwave. And it's become a tradition in my family for me to make them whenever we have a Thanksgiving or a Christmas or a Hanukkah dinner. It's not very labor intensive at all. It takes about 10 minutes of preparation plus about 20 to 25 minutes for the cook time, and they're ready to eat right when you serve. I will say I'm making them now because I was a little bit lazy and I forgot to go and get the ingredients for the original dish I wanted to make, which was going to be some jambalaya, and decided why not just throw some potatoes in the oven and get this thing done. I also want to give a special shout out to my upstairs neighbor, Chris. Chris lives right about there, and he is letting me borrow his oven mitts because kitchen safety is very important. And by that I mean I don't want to burn my hands, and I don't have any oven mitts. So Chris is letting me borrow these for the 30 some odd minutes it takes to make these roasted potatoes. So again, thank you, Chris. I might put your social media in the video, but I probably will not. Okay, now the oven is done preheating, so it is time to put them in the oven. I have set you up on a chair so I don't have to hold the camera because we have to use two hands because kitchen safety is necessary at all times. Okay, so I have just set a timer for 25 minutes for these roasted potatoes in here. I will probably talk to you when they're done. Okay, so now my timer just went off. I'm going to open up the oven with my oven mitts on and take the potatoes out. They should look something like this once you're done. Now, I will say they are very hot, so I will be waiting to eat them for about 2 or 3 minutes. You will need one of these, a spatula, to kind of loosen them up a little bit because you don't want them to get colder and have to lock into place, and then you just have a lot of potato residue on your baking sheet. Okay, it's been about a minute, maybe two, since I last spoke to you. I have one of these in my hand. This is called a fork, and I'm going to pick up one of these and give it a try. Wow, I just burned my mouth. Okay, I drank some water, cold water, and my mouth is feeling a little bit better. I gave him a little bit more time to cool off because I don't want to burn my mouth again. This is what it looks like on the fork. I will say, taste from the first one made me think that I did something wrong. I think I cooked them for about a minute too long because They are a little bit more airy than normal, but this is my first time making them in about, I don't know, 3-4 months, so checks out that I didn't do it perfectly. That one was much better. Now, I would add a little bit more salt and pepper as you do serve. I didn't make a dish to go with this. Usually they're thrown into something as a side dish, like let's say with some meat, the saying meat and potatoes. I will say I'm probably going to eat a small bowl of these and then save them for a meal that I make later on. Okay, and that's about it. This is what they look like in a bowl. Anyway, thank you very much for watching. Again, my name is Abe, or Abraham Jollis. I do want to make a disclaimer that if you're going to use this video as cooking advice, don't. And finally, now that they've cooled off quite a bit, I put them in a bowl. I will give them another try and rate them. So good. Anyway, thank you very much, and I hope you enjoyed watching the pilot episode of Abe's Kitchen.